week on Monday, we recap last week's interview with our guest. Last week we had Christy McCann Flynn, and we were talking about culture of learning. It's just me today, so if you have some comments or questions, submit them in the stream here. We're streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So just place a comment, ask a question. Last week we talked about instituting a culture of learning, adopting a culture of learning at work. And there were some key points that came out of that conversation. I have them right here on the screen for those who want to look at it. And these are the 5 things that at the end of the interview, Christy basically suggested that companies who want to adopt learning should invest in. So one of the things she said is give your HR people more money. If you agree with that, make a comment, send a note, please let me know. She said, quit putting money in talent acquisition and put the money in learning and development initiatives. So instead of hiring and replacing people, train them so that they can grow and learn. And also, one key thing she says, show and depict your company values, practice what you preach, and actually do. In other words, don't attract the right talent. Say you have a great culture, but then allow key people to get away with, discrimination or sexual harassment or things of that sort. And then she also said that we need to lead with more heart and more empathy. I thought this was an interesting point, especially when it comes to some of the older generation leadership, which has come perhaps from a crack the whip kind of mindset. That doesn't work anymore. And she was talking about investing in more empathy and more compassion. And welcome, Carlos, joining us today. I thought I was going to be by myself, but I'm not. That's awesome. And then finally, the 5th point that she pointed out was invest in millennials. Stop bashing millennials, invest in millennials because they are our leaders. Hey, Carlos, of those 5 things, I'd love to hear which one of them stood out the most for you. I'll tell you what stood out for me. The one that stood out the most was the concept of investing in leadership development, specifically when it comes to, let's face it, you and I are a little bit of the older guys, right?
Yep.
We come from a generation where you led through cracking the whip a little bit or a little bit more command and control. That just doesn't work today. Maybe it was effective for a while, maybe it was never really effective, but people just let it happen. But the idea of retraining and retooling those individuals to be more compassionate, to be more empathetic, I thought that really stood out. Is that, you think, a big opportunities for companies? What stood out for you?
Well, Tulio, first of all, excuse me, you're going to have to bear with me and the audience as well. I'm a little hoarse today. The weather is horrible today. So please, folks, bear with me if I have a hard time making a sense of myself. Tulio, one of the things that really did stand out for me during the conversation with Christy was the fact that she mentioned something specifically about, she said to quit putting money in talent acquisition and put in the development of your team instead. So I think that that's one of the things that really stood out for me when I was listening to her, because if companies could get the formula of how to do that effectively, it would be a game changer from my standpoint. The time that could be spent into talent scouting or hunting and headhunting and all that, and it makes a world of a difference because you put it in the development of your team or your current team. You can plan ahead. You can do more things and have the team be invested on what they're doing in a much better, in a more, solid fashion, so to speak. So that's one of the things that really stood out for me, Tulio.
Yeah, I think that was a really important point, because especially companies that kind of have the mindset of hire and fire till you find the right person, it's just not a good use of money and good use of time. Take the people you took in and invest in them, build them up, get them the tools they need, teach them the skills they need, invest in their learning. And the other thing that stood out was give HR people money. And she made an interesting point. HR gets the least budget to do their job when in fact HR has all the people in the organization, right? So it was an interesting conversation, and a point she made about giving HR money so that they could do their job effectively. Now, we know, for example, in our own company, in Nearsoft, we have almost 10 people in what we call people development. We don't call it HR because we don't call our people resources. So it's not managing human resources. But that investment pays off because it's something that it's about investing in people, developing programs for people. And it's something we have seen work very well. And I know companies, for example, Gary Vee has the chief heart officer, Claude Silver, who's really focused on people. And by the way, guys, we're excited to have Claude on DojoLIVE. She's going to be one of our guests on April 8th. So you don't want to miss that. But I think it's really important that companies shift their mindset to focusing on the people, investing in the people, and giving the folks that are basically responsible for the well-being of the people in the organization the money and the resources and the ability to do that effectively.
Yeah, indeed. And also one of the things that also stood out is that when she mentioned that specifically about the company culture, why the company culture exists around the people that are there, but also why they're there. So I think that I might not be one of the 5 key points that we mentioned today, but that's something that I do remember very, very, very solidly is because I myself even had that thought is what's important for me. It's not just the company culture as how I feel, but also the why. Why am I here? So I think it's important to answer those questions to build a solid team. That's also something that stood out.
Yeah, so really great episode. For those of you who haven't watched it, I encourage you to check it out. You can go on dojo.nearsoft.com and find it. It was a great conversation about what companies can do to invest in their people, to create a learning culture and the value of creating a learning culture. I don't think anyone doubts the value of that, but apparently not enough companies are making that investment and can't figure out why. But we got some good points out of that. So if you're on the fence about it, or you're trying to push that over the fence with some of your leadership, perhaps you're someone in HR who's trying to make a case for creating a learning organization, check out the show. It could be a good reference point for you to point to. And join us for the upcoming show this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Again, we're having another interview with founders of technology companies, talking about culture, talking about their business. And of course, we're going to have a recap on that as well. So if you listen and you enjoy it and you want to participate in the recap right here with Carlos and I, you can do so. Just let us know, DM us, and say, I want to participate. And we'd love to have members of the audience actively participating right here on the live video stream for the next recap. Carlos, unless you can think of anything else, I think that's all I have for today.
Yeah, same here too. Well, the only thing that I would like to mention is just make a quick announcement about this week's topic, so that we get everybody else enthused about joining us. It's going to be about artificial intelligence, the bridge to worldwide educational access, with Michael Puskar, the co-founder at oiga.com. So again, that's going to be here in DojoLIVE, 1 p.m. Pacific. Artificial intelligence, the bridge to worldwide educational access.
Great. Thanks for joining us, everyone, for the quick recap show, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tulio.